Joe, thank you very much for joining us here on one of our Spark Innovation videos. First, can you tell us a little bit about the Institute of Customer Service and what it does?
Well, it's great to be with you today. And the Institute, so my mum frequently asks me, what do we do for a living? And why do we exist? So the whole purpose of the Institute is to help organisations across many different industry sectors to get better at delivering great customer experiences. And the reason for that is we know that customer service has a major impact on the performance of the UK. Nearly 80% of our GDP in the UK is service related, and nearly 70% of our workforce are in customer related roles. So customer service really matters to the productivity of the UK, to our profitability, and how we are seen in the outside world. And our job is to help organisations to get better at delivering great experiences through research, networking, recognition, accreditation, training, qualifications. And it's a great privilege to do the role, actually.
And so we've asked all of our contributors this first question. So if I can throw it open to you, what is innovation to you?
Okay, so I think there's an awful lot talked about innovation, and it's bandied about as a word quite a lot. And I think there's a difference between ideas and inventions as well. So innovation in its simplest form and in the customer service point of view is taking either an idea or something and being able to deliver that for a greater or a better experience for the customer in its nutshell.
So would you say that sort of delivering a greater benefit for customers is why companies should innovate?
Absolutely, but I also think, if we don't, organisations are doing one of two things. They're either going forwards or they're going backwards. They're never standing still. So innovation is really important because actually as customers we know that you and I are much more demanding than we've ever been. We have less monies in our pockets, we're much more savvy, and also we don't compare, is this a great water company with another water company? We compare customer service and customer experiences with our favourite brands. So where other brands are innovating all the time, we need to be able to respond to that, and the water industry needs to be able to respond to that as well.
So, Joe, I know that recently ICS has put out a report all around sort of future trends for customers. Can you tell us a little bit about what might be different for what customers could expect in the future?
Okay, so we know that we're living in a rapidly evolving and changing world, and often we're asked to say, so what is the future going to look like? One thing's for sure is it's not going to be the same as today. The other thing that's for sure is that we tend to, and this is a quote from somebody much greater than me, but we tend to overestimate the longer term and underestimate the shorter term in terms of levels of innovation. So what's the future going to look like? Well, I think it's going to be the difference between what we term transactional activity. So technology, clearly, artificial intelligence, the role of robotics is going to increase, particularly to deal with more transactional activities. So we're already using that now. When I book my tickets online, when I actually do try to book my appointment with the doctors, that flexibility of living in a 24/7 world and being able to choose of my choosing when I choose to book something or an appointment, etc., will increase. But it's this wonderful blend between both technology and the human elements that are going to be really, really important. So the future, what we'll be expecting as customers, is a seamless experience. The future is about making it as easy as it possibly is for me. Being able to talk to people that are knowledgeable, which is going to continue to be really important, and to talk to people that actually have empathy, are connected to me and understand my issues and my challenges. So service of the future will be that wonderful combination of transactional activity being taken care of, but actually the service elements where I can make a difference will require even greater human interaction.
So do you think that's going to be particularly key from, often when we think innovation, we are thinking that automation side,
Yeah.
and there's a worry that potentially customers in vulnerable circumstances, potentially people who are less tech savvy, might find it quite difficult to sort of, not be left behind as such.
And I think that's a really good point. So, not leaving customers behind as part of this is going to be one of the critical aspects. But actually, it's about choice. Often as organisations, we design systems, whether that's technology, because we think that is going to be better. Actually, allowing the customer to choose is a really important element. And one of my big messages I'll always talk about is really trying to make sure that you design the customer experience from the customer's point of view, which means that asking the customer, but also involving the customer, because the customer doesn't necessarily even know what they want. So, but really understanding their behaviours, how they actually interact, what they're looking for. So it's not just the functionality, it's about how they feel and their emotional connection. So going forward, what we're going to be looking for is that wonderful interplay between technology, which actually does have an important place to play, but also that human interface. So in terms of vulnerable people or vulnerable customers, not losing them as part of this is really, really important, and ensuring that there are simple ways for us all, frankly, whether you are vulnerable or not, to be able to interact with an organisation.
You talked a little bit there about sort of how you understand your customer more. Do you think, you touched a little bit earlier on how customers are not seeing sort of utilities in isolation. So do you think kind of innovating for customers is quite similar across all of the sectors?
Okay. Really good question. So can you apply innovations from other sectors in order to be able to take things forward? What I do know is that as organisations, from the customer point of view, we're all facing similar challenges. So as customers, we don't differentiate between sectors in terms of our levels of expectation. We expect now our parcels to be delivered the next day because Amazon, or actually the same day, because Amazon can do that for us. We expect to actually work with people that are courteous and supportive. We don't expect to be overcharged. And actually all of those things are similar in lots of different sectors. However, where sectors will really be able to break through and where you're seeing good practice, it's about genuinely, as I've said, designing the customer experience around the customer. But it is also about asking the customer, what do they like? How does that make them feel? So it's the functionality and also the emotional connection that I feel to things. And actually, every sector will have that need or that requirement. So I think you can learn from outside of sectors. If you look at the retail sectors, some of them better or higher performing customer satisfaction is in the retail sectors. So looking outside of sector for greater innovation is definitely something I would encourage.
Joe, we talk about at Ofwat a lot around trust and confidence, and our strategy is all around trying to increase trust and confidence in the water sector. What role do you think innovation can play in sort of increasing trust and confidence?
Well, absolutely. Trust is critical. And what we do see around customer service is organisations that have higher levels of customer service and where they're scoring 9s and 10s have about a 50% higher trust rating. So trust is really important. And what I would argue is where you innovate through customer, so basically going out to the customer, asking the customer, consulting with the customer, then you have a better chance of being able to build that level of trust. But actually what you need to be able to do is deliver on what you've actually promised. So innovation is really important in terms of supporting trust, because as long as it comes from the customer angle, so as long as it's genuinely about what the customer is looking for, not necessarily just what the organisation is looking for. So innovation definitely plays a part. Customer service can play an even bigger part in terms of delivering that innovation if it is delivered genuinely from the customer's point of view.
I think that sort of co-delivery point is a really strong one. And so if I can ask you the final question, you'll be relieved to hear. If you were to sort of give someone one message about innovation, one recommendation, what would it be? Okay,
so my one message around innovation is when you start to think about innovation, always think about this from the customer's point of view. There are plenty of examples where we've had lots of really good ideas, we've designed things with bells and whistles on, but actually it doesn't support what the customer wants. So outside in, and really focus on designing your customer experience genuinely from the customer's point of view.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Joe Causon, thank you very much for joining us today on the Spark Innovation Channel.
Thank you.